I've eaten a lot of raccoon. Yes. The answer is yes. And I've eaten it. I've eaten it hunting. I've actually had it served by my mom at the table away from hunting. And I have eaten raccoon. And yes, it's not uncommon at all. I'll tell you something that is one of my favorites is squirrel. And it's wonderful, and my mother could do a great job of it. And we all had our favorite pieces, and my dad and sister, I have one sibling, a sister, and they would fight over, not fight, but my mom and I, they were just, my sister and I as far as siblings, my mom and I wouldn't even ask for the brain in a squirrel.
Oh, man.
And delicious, seriously.
My dad loves cow
my
brain.
sister always got it, or my dad.
The fight over the brain. Jerry?
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as the Funky Chicken. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having the great Friday. It's the weekend is here. We're about to get an Arctic blast up in here. We're literally going to have high temperatures of 20 and 19. I know, cuz, that you live up in Minneapolis and you're used to that kind of weather. Not down here, bro. We ain't used to it down here. And before y'all start, no, I did not dye my hair. It's kind of crazy because if I wet my hair and put some Shea moisturizer on it, it looks like it's dark, but there's still the grays in there. It's just, I don't know why. Because my wife even looked, she's like, did you dye your hair? I was like, no, I didn't dye my hair. It's just when it gets frizzy and like this and dry, you can see all the gray. So I guess maybe that's my secret to try and look a little younger. Maybe if I try and clean some of this shit up, maybe I wouldn't look like I'm 60 years old at 59. Be that as it may, the Dallas Cowboys have their first interview for head coach today. Oh, shit! Oh, shit! With Kellen Moore. And I have to tell you that, God, no. I really don't want Kellen Moore. I don't want Kellen Moore. I saw a post this morning on X this morning from Mike Fisher, shout out to Mike Fisher, that had the belief is Kellen Moore is the smartest guy in the room. Kellen Moore is the smartest guy in the room. Done. Finished. So, should we get Bill Gates to coach the Cowboys? He's definitely would be the smartest man in any room. They used to say Jason Garrett was always, with his Princeton degree, the smartest guy in the room. How'd that work out for us? Seriously. And I'm going to say, have you seen anybody interview for head coaching jobs more than Kellen Moore? Seriously. Every year, Kellen Moore is interviewing for head coaching jobs. Now, there may be hope for us. There may be hope for us because Jacksonville is setting up an interview with Kellen Moore too. Keep your fingers crossed. Please. I want to say Kellen Moore has interviewed for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Excuse me, not the Jaguars. The Carolina Panthers at least twice. I think he's done for the Raiders. I mean, I think the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, he has literally done the whole tour around the NFL on being hired. But for some reason, he's not being hired. He had more interviews last year than Dan Quinn. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. All these teams out there desperate for a coach have interviewed him. And nobody's hired him to be a head coach. Think about that for a second. Why? If he's the smartest guy in the room, he's the whiz kid. I mean, Mike McDaniels. Everybody looked and said, that guy's a genius. He automatically went to Miami, got the job. I don't think he did a tour for 2 years, or actually now 3 years, like Kellen Moore. Like Kellen Moore. And you got to look and say, Mike McDaniels, he looks the part of the smartest guy in the room. How's that working out in Miami? They held on to him because I think there's really a lack of quality candidates out there on this cycle. It's basically retreads. The fact that Rex Ryan is still getting interviews now is kind of crazy. There aren't the Jim Harbaughs and so on. And see, here's the problem I have with Kellen Moore. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He just seems a little cold. Doesn't seem like a motivator. I need somebody who's not going to be the lapdog for Jerry Jones. I need a guy who can motivate the players to get the most out of them. And I need a guy who can push back against Jerry Jones. That's the only hope that we have, is that we can get a Bill Parcells attitude type of a guy here. Bill Parcells was able to build the roster. The problem was he just wasn't here long enough. He pushed back on Jerry Jones and was able to build a roster. We've got a lot of holes that need to be built. And we need somebody who can be that alpha dog against Jerry Jones. And I don't think Kellen Moore is that guy. He might work well. Maybe Jacksonville, maybe that's the place. Because you're not looking for, the owner's not looking to be front and center. He's just looking for wins. Jerry Jones is looking to be the guy. And that guy, for 30 years, him and his son, Dumb and Dumber, well, they're not good. Not good. So right now, and I ask you to go ahead and hashtag it too, going on, I talked about it last night. Shout out to my man Jay Tuck. He's a genius. He's now going to be working with Des Bryant. The hashtag, no Kellen Moore. No Kellen Moore. No. Hit that hashtag. Let's push that mother humper out here. Make your voices heard. Sorry, it's Jason Garrett 2.0, and I didn't like Jason Garrett 1.0 for 10 years. It's too long. Deion intrigues me for the simple fact of he's not going to roll over and be a lapdog. He is a guy who's going to be like, screw this. And now we have last night, Jane Slater was reporting that he's in negotiating the NIL and looking to get a better deal. He's losing, of course, his son, Sator, and Travis Hunter, which are going to be, big losses for the program. But he does have a lot of players that are coming in. And from the standpoint of looking at where the program was before he got there to where it is now, you have to look at it and say, Deion, anything you want, bro, it's yours. But that's not what they're doing. They're kind of like, no. This money is mine. It's like, but bro, you wouldn't have that money if it wasn't for primetime being here. Because, see, what happened is primetime, much like the Cowboys, are polarizing. Either you love primetime or you hate primetime, but you watching primetime. And for the Dallas Cowboys, I think about the ads that used to be out there, where, get me Deion, and, I don't care what it cost. You bring that dynamic back to the Cowboys, whether you win or lose, it would be so huge because those people that hate the Cowboys and Deion would be ecstatic to see the pain of the Cowboys. Deion would bring back Showtime for the Dallas Cowboys. Deion with the confrontations. In fact, Jerry Jones, you should want the pushback. You want to stir shit up. You want to have everybody talking about you and the organization and the dysfunctionality. Let Deion say, Catboy, sit your ass down. We gonna go get a Derrick Henry in here because this is what we need to win. And we gonna be here to win. I didn't come here to lose and to be your bitch. Now sit your ass down and write the damn check and get out of my way. Because it's prime time, okay? Yeah, this is prime time. Jerry, you want to go ahead and get publicity? You know what? Primetime is going to want about 15, 16, maybe $18 million a year. How much more money would you make just from Deion Sanders being here alone? Just the Coach Prime shirts and jackets. Think about every primetime game the Dallas Cowboys have. Primetime and primetime. Oh. Hell, they might bring back MC Hammer and his crew and get it out there. Can't touch this. Okay, can't touch this. Bro, you, Jerry, you got to do what it takes. Because Deion is that kind of guy that can show those rings to those players. Primetime is the guy who other players will look and say, I want to play for that organization the same way Colorado is. Because, see, Jerry, you got Micah out here selling. You can pump up your media. You know, come to Dallas, man. You can get your YouTube show. You're out here worrying about $45 tours so that fans can knock on the glass. Bro, you bring primetime in, I guarantee you'll get some players that will want to play for primetime that may come in here and say, I'll take a little bit less to be here with primetime. See, here's the and Jerry, you know this. You know this. It takes money to make money. And apparently you didn't teach that to Catboy. If you want to win games, you're going to have to spend some money. When I look at Kellen Moore and I say, Kellen Moore, okay. They say he's a genius at play calling. All I know is when we get to the playoffs, we're unable to run the football at all. When we get to the playoffs, 12 personnel, which used to work for us really good, you don't do it. Hurry up offense. When Dak Prescott was incredible, we don't do it. Moving the pocket. Moving the pocket. Because Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks on the move. We don't do. We look so vanilla when it comes to playoffs. I don't know if that's because we've got injuries or maybe we don't have enough personnel. But those are things that I see. We get to playoffs, we become completely one-dimensional. Everything's just Dak. And we've never been able to run the football. Except for Zeke Elliott's rookie year against Green Bay, where he had 125 yards. Now, we're told there is the renaissance of Kellen Moore, who now understands running the football. Oh, he's become a genius at running the football. But he's 28th in passing. So, is that the genius of Kellen Moore? Of being able to call those plays? Or is it that the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in football and the best running back? It's a loaded offense. It's a lot easier to call plays when you have a loaded offense. Just saying. Anybody can look like a genius when you have the best tools. When you know a guy is a good coach is when you don't have him. Because I can go ahead and point out Kyle Shanahan. The season before, oh my God, Kyle Shanahan, he's a freaking genius, man. Brock Purdy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's incredible. Well, all your skill positions were loaded. Christian McCaffrey, best running back in football. Deebo Samuel's literally able to run over people. Brandon Ayuk, your deep threat that seemed to be always open. George Kittle, a future Hall of Fame tight end. One of the best left tackles in football, and Trent Williams. And everybody stayed healthy. Calling plays when you have all of that and those different weapons and you can spread out the field, that works out really well. But when you go to a team that has one weapon and no running game and a shitty offensive line, that shit doesn't work that worked when you have a loaded team. And I'm not sure that Kellen Moore can overcome that, because with Kellen Moore, that says that the Dallas Cowboys will do business exactly the same. Catboy and Jerry Jones picking the players and not, digging in free agency and not keeping their players that want to get paid. You might as well keep Mike McCarthy. Deion would be, we're moving forward. We're going to change things up. We're going to have butting of heads. And we're going to try and do more with more. That's the difference of why I say I'd rather have Deion than Kellen Moore. And maybe, I hope Jacksonville says, hey, Kellen Moore, we want you as our coach. That he takes that off the table. Kellen Moore, you don't want to come here. You know what it's like with the Joneses. You are not going to be able to win a Super Bowl team here. To make a Super Bowl team. You're just not. You don't have the fortitude, the will, or the tenacity to go toe-to-toe with Jerry Jones. Deion does. All right, let's go here to ESPN and see what they have to say about all this.
We know this is Deion Sanders. Jerry Jones talked to Deion Sanders earlier this week about possibly coaching the Cowboys. Where that ends up is really anybody's guess at this point. They are interviewing Kellen Moore, the Eagles offensive coordinator, virtually today. They have an interview set up this weekend with former Jets head coach Robert Saleh. Leslie Frazier is on
tomorrow.
Their list. Liam Cohen is on their
Frazier
list.
on Monday.
But Greeny, I know you want to talk about this guy, Deion Sanders, who is apparently on the list as far as Jerry Jones is concerned, and we'll see where that ends up landing.
I want to hear Stephen A. talk about it. Yesterday, Stephen A., for those of you who missed it, opened First Take with a message for Jerry Jones.
Howdy! How do you do? Yes, I'm in someplace other than Dallas, Texas, but it's on a lot of people's minds, because I heard my boy Prime Time is snowmobiling in the mountains. Let me tell you something, baby. It don't matter whether you got on a cowboy hat, whether you're snowboarding, or whatever the case may be. When Prime Time is making news and it's associated with the Dallas Cowboys, you know what you got to say to yourself? Come on, Jerry. Get it together. The playoffs are going on without you. Come on, Jerry. You know you need a new man in that building. Get it together. Come on, Jerry. Do what the people are clamoring for you to do, because when you do that, you can end up someplace like this, even with a cowboy hat on. You hear?
Okay, Stephen A., performance arts extraordinaire. So there's so many pieces to this. And the most interesting one of it, and Mike Tannenbaum, all kidding aside, I mean, anyone who's paying attention is aware you're assisting the Jets with their head coaching search. At the end of the day, these things come down to one person making a decision, right? So it's not about whether we think it makes sense, all that kind of stuff. It's going to come down to Jerry Jones deciding, does he like the idea or not?
It's not about whether anyone else in the Dallas Cowboys facility thinks it makes sense. It's up to Jerry Jones. Look, I continue to think this is not the likely outcome, right? Like a lot has to happen. Deion at Colorado, he's got some roots down there and has done well. But The fact that they've talked is not insignificant. It is Jerry that's going to make this decision. He could theoretically sell Deion on this opportunity and get him out of Colorado. So the thing people have to understand is if you go back a week and you ask Jerry Jones who the coach of the Cowboys is going to be next year, he would have said Mike McCarthy. Like this, they thought they would get a deal done with McCarthy. They didn't. So their search couldn't begin until early this week. And as of now, this is part of it.
Yeah, I agree. This time of year, you hear words like fit and alignment. It's very unique there. It's an owner who's a GM who has a post-game press conference, a radio hit every week. So it has to be a fit for that culture and that situation. In some ways, you feel like these two guys would fit together. And if it's ever going to happen, now would be the time.
I mean, this would be strictly a football. This isn't about selling tickets or back pages. Deion Sanders is a legitimate football coach who has proven himself at everything he's ever done.
You know him. I mean,
he was a teammate of mine for 2 years. Listen, people don't get confused with thinking Deion is like, some new school type of guy. He's an old school principal guy. And what does the Dallas Cowboys need? Accountability. They've been living off of those 3 titles that they had in the 90s. Well, who better to come in than a guy that was part of that building process to help them get one of them chips? He can come in and he's one of the very few players that can get the ear of the audience and he can call guys out. And what could you say? If you want to build brands, that's who you talk to. He can be a resource for everybody in that locker room and everybody within that building.
Well, I think it's 2 different jobs that head coaches in Dallas have to do. You have to be able to manage the locker room and you have to be able to manage the owner. And I think that Deion Sanders can do that. It's not necessarily just about the X's and O's. Obviously, he knows and understands how to
this sounds like what I said.
Program when you look at Jackson State and also Colorado. But for Jerry Jones and Deion, it's having a voice that you value and respect. Someone needs to be able to have a conversation with Jerry because you're never going to tell Jerry what to do. That, Jerry, this could be best for our team, and have him value that. And now when you look at a CD Lamb, go back to last year when Dan and we're talking about the tours. Who better to say, okay,
oh my God,
here is how you handle what it is to be a Dallas Cowboy.
Okay, let me clarify something right here. I have not watched this. I go through in the morning, I find a clip and all that. I swear this is the same stuff that I literally just said. I said Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, they're worried about getting $45 for a damn tour and stuff. Deion is going to want to win. Deion does not want to fail. Deion, yes, he will be about the X's and O and about that team, but it'll also be showtime with him as well. This should be exactly what the Dallas Cowboys want. Kellen Moore? Sorry. Yeah, why would you want that? Why would you want to look on the sidelines and see freaking Kellen Moore? Honestly, as opposed to Coach Prime. Go on.
Better than primetime Deion Sanders.
Right.
The thing about these 2 men, there's no room that Deion Sanders is in where he's not the brightest light. There's no room that Jerry Jones is in where he's not the brightest light. How do they figure out a way to compromise when it comes to who is the biggest voice in this locker room? And I think that's what's most important.
I think the other part of this, you just made me think of it. Micah Parsons with all the podcasts. I mean, the Cowboys have far more podcasts than they have wins, in this past year anyway. Like, I think that's the kind of thing, to your point, that Deion might be the one player or one of a very small handful of people who could walk into a room and say, guys, we're done with that.
No, he can't. Deion has a Tubi show right now. So, that's not going to happen. But the thing is, the thing that he won't do, though, he won't tell them not to have them, but he will tell them, do your job with excellence while having them. There's so many. This is a new age of players.
Probably can help him do it.
Yeah, it's a new age of players. So now Deion can go to them and say, okay, it's okay that we have these things. I understand these things, but Micah, what you can't say is this. What you can't do is this. You can't put us in this situation. I want you to shine, but shine in the right way.
That's the way I should have said it. Yeah. Don't rank the best quarterbacks in the NFL and leave our guy out.
Yeah.
Don't do that on your podcast. NBA.
Over in the NFL, the Cowboys adding a name they know.
Okay, we'll end right there. So he kind of voiced the same things that I did. Deion, for me, says 2 things. It says the main thing is we're going to be about winning and we're going to be changing some of the things we do. Kellen Moore says to me, business as usual, nothing changes. And as a Cowboy fan, I don't know. It will be so hard to see Kellen Moore as the head coach of the Cowboys. It's just, and nothing against Kellen Moore, I just don't see it being. I just see him being run over. Just does. But we'll see what we're going to see. And it's going to be what it's going to be. As always, we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.